I'm here to talk to you about managed clusters. And today we're actually going to do a lot of demos because it's going to take obviously some time, as you would expect, to get instances started. And so it's going to be fast-paced. We actually apparently also will have a planned question. I don't know if Sakari, you can actually do the question or not.
Yes, I could. So I have a few questions and polls, and we could actually start with one of those and take a couple of other ones later on. The first poll for you to answer on the screen is like this. So are you using or planning to use Galera Manager on premises, AWS, DigitalOcean, or would you prefer to have it on Google Cloud Platform, or if we would have a support for Azure? So please choose what's your plans, or where are you using Galera Manager at the moment?
And the good news for everybody is while you do this, I will also log on to an Amazon panel.
Please make your votes. Just so we have a little bit of view. What are your plans and where are you using Galera Manager for? Okay, that's enough for now for this poll. Thank you so much for answering. Many of you using or planning to use it on premises. Some of you also planning to use it on the AWS. Thank you so much. I'll close the poll and we continue with Colin.
All right, so we go down to launch an instance. It should be GM. So while we very clearly state we don't support Amazon Linux 2, we actually do because it's Red Hat compatible. And I'm going to use a T2 micro instance in this case. Got to make sure I have a key pair available as well, which is right here. Going to make a security group. I'm also going to allow HTTP traffic from anywhere really. And I'm going to have 8 GB of storage, which should be enough for this demo. And then I'm going to hit the launch instance. And I go to view all instances. I should be able to see a GM instance right here, one of which I should have a public IP address. And I can go here, get it larger, is SSH-I, EC2 user at yes. So Amazon uses PEM keys. Sudo su is a good idea. And for all of you who want to get access to Galera Cluster, Galera Manager, I'm sure you know that we have this little download page here, which allows you to download Galera Manager by filling in some information. Of course, in the interest of time, I will not do that. I will actually just go grab things from the internet, and then I will chmod x gm installer, and you will notice that we can actually check the version. So we've got a new version actually. We're going to probably make a quick blog post as to what it fixes tomorrow, and then we're going to install it. We're going to accept it. We've got to set a password. And then I've got to also make sure I've got the server IP address sorted. And this will take approximately 3 minutes, give or take. So, we can actually go down and do the same thing inside of DigitalOcean, even though most of you are doing on-premise. So this is actually the demo that matters. So I'm going to start a quick DigitalOcean droplet. I'm going to keep it in Singapore, and I will use CentOS 7. I go down for regular, and I have obviously got SSH key. So most of you here are on premises, so that's super. So just so you know, I have some what you could consider on-premise installations here. Basically, they're already pre-installed Galera clusters. So if I log on to a machine here, for example, and I type mysql-p, I have actually got a lot of databases. I use, say, EMEA and do select count star from customers. You'll see I've got 790,000 right there. And actually, I've made a very simple, insert here. And if I do that, you will notice that now the select. Now I'm doing it again. So if I do select count star from, you will see that it went up by. All right, so we've actually already installed Galera Manager. So first things first is we've got to go to security groups here and edit it such that we can have a new inbound rule for HTTP, of course. But port 8081 needs to be custom from, actually you can say anywhere now. Amazon's really improved this. And if I go here, I should be able to log on fairly quickly. Voila. So I can now deploy, as you can see, a fully managed cluster or deploy a cluster on user provided hosts or monitor an existing cluster. So, so I've already shown you that I've got that, and I actually will create another droplet, which is a user provided host. As I'm going to provide a host. We can use Ubuntu 20.04, and we will use a regular one as well. Ubuntu 20.04-1. So I will create another droplet here. So I'm going to install GM in parallel on another machine. So this is going to be on the DigitalOcean host. Let me go grab the wget command again. So here, I will have to do yum install wget. And then I'm going to do that. So let me go back here. All right, so this should happen as well. In the meantime, we are going to deploy, of course, a nice fully managed cluster. Obviously, we love MySQL 8. And I'm not going to add an SSH key here because I'm going to show you a new feature that we have for an SSH console. We do need to get an access key, so I'm going to go here and fire up my security credentials. I'm going to do this pretty quickly, as you know, so that you don't spin up instances in my name. So I'm just going to pop that here, and you'll see that very interestingly, when I enter the secret key, it's going to show you that it actually works. And we were doing this inside of, we can actually pick any region, but I'm going to actually, in this particular instance, just pick EU Central 1 to make it easy. And I'm going to use reasonably small instances. You'll see that these instances aren't available because the architecture isn't supported. It's an ARM-based architecture that we don't support. So we have a very long list here, and I'm just going to use a T2 small actually, 1 vCPU, 2 gigs of RAM, and I'm going to hit the create button. So then I'm going to add nodes. Naturally, I want to add 3 nodes, and we're going to call it EMEA again. So I'm boring like that, and we hit the deploy button. So now we just let the deploy happen, and you'll notice that previously I only had 1 instance, but soon you will see a couple more instances show up. So we've magically now deploying 3 instances. So we let this set up by itself. So again, as you know, time is something that will vary based on where your hosts are and so forth. It's taking a bit long on the DigitalOcean side to run the yum update. You'll notice that I've also just provisioned a new machine. 88% of you say you'd like to run on premise. So, here's an example to just show you that we have a nice new machine here. And, it is absolutely new, 2004 LTS. There is no MySQL, of course. It should say the command is not found. So so we're going to show you how to do a on-premise provisioning soon on DigitalOcean. It can be on AWS, it can be on premise. It's basically just providing a box of which is what is available. Wish this yum update actually speeds up a little bit. So while that happens, and this is loading, so it's okay to see these connection refused attempts. It's just because the nodes are starting. It should be. So maybe a bit long for these nodes to be in connection refused state, even though we actually do have these nodes running. So EC2's initialization process can occasionally take a little bit longer than one would expect, but have faith that it will happen. So we're going to let all this run now in the background, and I'm going to tell you that yes, the answer to all these questions is none other than yes. Can you create a Galera cluster in AWS? Yes. Can you do it in DigitalOcean? Yes. Can you provision on your existing instances? Absolutely. We're going to show that to you because I just created the Ubuntu instance. Can it manage an existing instance? Absolutely, of course. And can it also monitor one? Totally. And managed database as a service and why you might consider Galera Manager with Galera Cluster. You may find out that our costs are ridiculously low. So you've already seen this prompt, and you'll notice that on the prompt, we talk about you can deploy a fully managed cluster, which is exactly what is going to happen now. I don't have to show you the similarly on DigitalOcean because I can tell you it totally does work. You just need to look for different access key, which I will show you how to get to in a bit. And deploying a cluster on a user provided host is basically we provide you the SSH key and you go forth and do everything. And then you can just monitor an existing cluster of which I also already have running. And I'll show you how one could do the monitoring just as well. So it's generally quite exciting the amount of things Galera Manager can do for you. So Codership, a little bit about us. I presume you already kind of know who we are. We're developers and experts at Galera Cluster. We've been doing this since 2007, so we really do know a lot about Galera Cluster. We are the original makers of the software, and we produce open source software as well as enterprise-ready software. And we consider, the what we have here today as quite enterprise-ready, actually. So I'd say pretty cool stuff overall. And we are running in multiple industries, as you'd imagine, and I presume a lot of you also happen to run Galera to some extent. So don't want to spend too much time on an intro here. Also, obviously, want you to know that we're all about multi-master application, and we're highly scalable. You can add, delete nodes on the fly. We're basically one big database from an application standpoint. And, we can add any number of secondary slave threads, which happen in row level, and it applies in parallel on commit, with the commit order being dictated as well. So we are quorum based. We've got optimistic concurrency control. We're 100% multi-master cluster where all nodes are equal. And that's the beauty of us. Now let's just go back quickly, check on these installs. As you can see, we already have an install. And here we've got 3-node Galera cluster running inside of Amazon with 2 instances. So I've now actually shown you the first part of when we clicked add a cluster. I've showed you deploy a fully managed cluster, but let's not just trust my word for it. Let's log on to one via an SSH terminal. Voila, let's type MySQL, select version, show status like WS rep cluster size. If this is an actual presentation, you should now, this is the time you'd be applauding with claps, because the software did what it said it was going to do. And this is a nice new feature right here, the SSH terminal. And you can do whatever you please with this, right? So, we can actually literally just stop this node. Let's go back here. Let's do a little create table. So I can do create database EMEA, use EMEA, oops. And then I'm going to do a nice little insert. So, we stopped one database. So let's go for some nice granular 5 minutes now. Let's start the database again. You all know that we can do an IST for this, an incremental state transfer. It should be fairly straightforward. And, I can just add this. And, when this node comes back up again, you will see that it is going to get these received bytes, because that's what good nodes do. And soon it will all be synced. And you can actually go down and see that when the node got started, you see this big amount of bit of flow control, because that the node was like, hey, look, I got to join, and then it obviously received transactions. We can go down here, take a look even closer, and down here even see the replicated bytes. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't log on to this also via an SSH terminal. So we've got 40,000 rows there. If I type MySQL on this host and use EMEA, and we've got 40,000 rows there too. So we know that all this works. And if you can add nodes if you feel like it by going up to the main cluster here, by adding a node, it'll just spin up another one. You can just delete nodes as and when you please. So let's just go down here and delete the node. It tells you to say please. So now we're deleting a node. Show variables like WS rep cluster size. Sorry, it's status. We're down to 2 nodes, so we can add another node as and when you please, and so forth. So in effect, what I've done here is I've shown you how you could create a fully managed cluster. We do it on DigitalOcean. It's also very simple. We're asked for an access token. You get access tokens, I believe, down here in the API settings. It loads. All right, so I can just click generate a new token, webinar. And if I copy this token and I paste it here, it's going to verify that I can actually create a DigitalOcean. And the answer is yes, I can. And I can actually from Amazon, also deploy on DigitalOcean if I wanted to, with no big deal. Now, I don't actually want to do that at this very moment, because now I want to show you what else we can do with DigitalOcean or Galera Manager in general. So we've already done the first one. So let's try to deploy a cluster on a user provided host. Let's call this user provided. And we love MySQL 8. And we'll deploy it on Ubuntu 20.04 because that's what I actually loaded up earlier. I'm going to click create button. It's telling you need to copy this here. So if I go back here and I do SSH authorize keys, you will see that that's pretty much what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to click the finish button. And now I'm going to add node. So we're going to call this node 1. And it has an SSH address, which I will copy from here. And I'm going to click the check access button, just make sure the SSH works. Voila, it does. Let's hit the deploy. And I'm going to make another node, another Ubuntu node, because where's the fun in making it that we don't have at least 2 nodes, right? So again, SSH key Ubuntu 2. So all this is setting up. So the one thing about Galera Manager that from a demo standpoint, that is obviously a bit of an issue, is that obviously it blocks, right? It doesn't allow you to do more than one thing at a time. That's okay. It's just one of those things that we don't presume you're going to do so many installations. So we're now 25 minutes past the hour. I have you till approximately another 25 minutes as well. So we're doing pretty well. barring any failures, obviously we're doing pretty well. So obviously we have some firewall nodes. Obviously you need SSH port 22 to be opened. And yes, you do need the root user to be able to control machines. For TCP, you need port 3306 to be open. And if you use MySQL 8, which we always recommend you to use because we make it, we support it, it is the best from us. You should use clone SST by default. Clone SST is much faster than extra backup v2 for SST purposes. And of course, TCP ports are 4444 for ISTs, 4567 for other communications, as well as 4568 for state snapshot transfers. And don't forget the UDP port as well. So when you have a firewall, these are things you do need to enable. As Linux, you can run in enforcing mode, but during the installation, make sure you set it to 0, and then make those ports open, and similar again to the firewall. But yes, Galera Manager, lovely piece of software. And let me hop on over here. It's still unpacking, so it's installing stuff. We can obviously see these wonderful logs of what's going on. I've obviously got a second instance that I'm going to install so that at least you get 2 nodes in the cluster. Rafael asked the question, with Galera Manager, can you control which node is a donor for SSD? The answer is actually no, you cannot control which is the donor for SSD. This could be a good feature request potentially, because yes, it's true, sometimes people do run 3-node Galera cluster and then they'd like to dedicate one node to be backups, SSDs, etc. This is not something that you can do at the moment. So let this installation obviously occur. It should be done fairly soon actually, but it is actually installing a full-on MySQL cluster, naturally, a Galera cluster. And of course, we don't have a nice little progress situation here, so we're going to head back here. So Galera Manager is basically, it is free for you to use. You can download it. It is part of Galera Enterprise Edition as well, and it provisions on AWS, DigitalOcean, your own clusters, in segment nodes. So what we're doing now in this particular demo is we're provisioning it on your own nodes. 88% of you say you want to run on your own on-premise nodes. Just create a base OS like I did, and you can run it on your own. Of course, you can segment nodes for geo-distributed clusters across multiple regions, add, remove nodes, monitor. It's fully web-based. We support many MySQLs and MariaDBs and Linuxes. But keep in mind that if you use, say, MariaDB 10.7, it will not run on, say, RHEL 7 or CentOS 7. And we are planning to deprecate CentOS 7. It's now the end of 2022. CentOS 7 is literally on its last legs. All right. Go back. All right. Done. Exciting. Now if I type MySQL here, voila, I have MySQL. Show status like WS rep. We have one node in the cluster. So let's go here. Again, I'm going to do a little bit of copy pasting here. And we're going to do a bunch of these inserts. So we have obviously got 20,000 there. And I want to now deploy on another node. I'm only going to deploy, in this case, 2 nodes. Of course, you never do that in production. Remember, I can also go here via SSH terminal if you fancy. And you type here, use EMEA. So it's the same exact thing. Absolutely the same thing. So I'm going to go back here, add a node. we're going to call it node 2. So, we got to be boring and make sure this is the actual IP. Yes, it is. Hit the check access button. No access. Can anyone tell me why? It's because I did not have the SSH, correct? I'm missing SSH configuration, which, as you can see, I added here as SSH key. So I can just, literally copy this, for example, and log on. Well, I've got to log on to the machine first. And oops, I just logged an IP. So we just obviously go back here to that lovely copy. Okay, go back to adding a node. So we call it 2. Now it should be okay. Hit the deploy button. As I said, this will take some time. So we can go back to lovely deck. So, I don't know how many of you have actually used DigitalOcean. 0% of you say you're actually interested in DigitalOcean, but this is how you actually create classes in DigitalOcean. Basically, you've got 2 standby nodes to get a total of $90 a month. So we make a fair comparison as well. Similar configuration is um, basically, I would say the fair comparison is a $12 a month instance, which is 2 gigabytes or 1 CPU. So you need 3 of that, so it's $36. Plus, you've got to add $6 a month instance for Galera Manager itself. So total cost of $42 for a small database versus $90 a month, which makes it 114% cheaper. So each managed instance is $30, and a simpler comparison with Galera Manager is basically 90 versus 42. We kept the instances similar since Galera Manager has aggressive logging needs. The cost could actually go up maybe $48, giving you about still 87% cheaper. Plus, you're not getting regular MySQL asynchronous replication. You're actually getting virtually synchronous cluster. So it's cheaper and it's better. I mean, who doesn't like cheaper and better in real life? True that at some stage maybe you may have to pay for Galera Manager if Codership decides to make it non-free, or if we would like to charge you for some support. But this is obviously a huge savings. I also took the ability to do the AWS estimates. I went to calculated the AWS. I'm sure many of you used RDS before, and RDS currently uses semi-synchronous replication for 8.0 when it comes to MySQL multi-AZ. But remember, you don't actually get to use that node. So Aurora itself doesn't use replication, and RDS has 1 semi-synchronous slave. Now, the pricing here is $537 for 1 EC2 node. We, of course, need 4 EC2 nodes of similar configuration. So we're up at $21.48. So you'll notice that AWS is actually cheaper than DigitalOcean, but maybe less developer convenient. Because it requires PEM keys, not really SH keys, and so forth. So Aurora, we are even at $21.48 per month, we are 150% cheaper than Aurora. 150% is a lot of money. And on RDS, with the 76 slave, we are 133.5% cheaper. So there are benefits to actually using compared to what's available in the hosted cloud. Let's hide that for a bit. And we're still installing, so we're getting close to being done, one would hope. So maybe now is not a bad time to even potentially get to another question real quick. Sakari would like to roll up a poll. So, go for it.
All right, thank you, Colin. So let's take a look. What do we have here? So what would you like to us to develop first for you? I have two sets of questions. Unfortunately, I couldn't put every answer into one poll. I have two polls for you. So let's bring up the first poll. What would you like to us to develop in? And I have made we have made answers for you. I'm not sure if they are self-explaining. Let's hope so, but here is the first poll for that. So you can choose as many as you want. So please give us your votes. What do we should be doing?
So yeah, while you vote, note that I actually got Node 2 up and running. If I type MySQL here now, I can do show databases. And magically it's obviously got the EMEA information because we actually replicated it over. So Galera is so good at provisioning nodes, show status like WS rep cluster size, again, shows we've got a cluster size of 2. So Galera is really, really, really good at all of this. So I've just provisioned a 2-node Galera cluster. And in the event that I decide I want to shut down node 1, I can just stop it for a moment.
Sorry to interrupt, Colin. I'm closing the poll and I'm opening another one. Wait a second. One more poll. This is the last one, and it's about the same thing. We continue with the question, what features would you like to see? Please give your votes quickly so we can move on to actual presentation of what's Colin having behind there.
Yeah. Oh, you can't see, I'm sure you can still see the screen. Oh, maybe not.
I'll give you a couple of more seconds. Please vote for the features. All right. Thank you so much. I'm closing the poll. Maybe, Colin, you would need to go a little bit back. I'm not sure if they were able to follow during the poll, the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, this is another node. It's, popped up, and I actually just shut down one node. I'm going to just start it up again. These are all the self-installed nodes, user-provided hosts, and are we getting back? Let's see. So obviously, can't connect the server. So yeah, we're just node 1 started. So we're back to a 2-node cluster, and we can confirm it's a 2-node cluster. This is actually, so you remember when I guess when we say 88% of you said you cared about deploying this on your own hosts. I've just shown you how you can deploy this on your own host. So this is a user provided host because we just created 2 Ubuntu instances, and you can create these instances anywhere it doesn't really matter where you create them. And Galera Manager will handle everything for you. Oops. So we've got 80302611, and yeah, I highly recommend you take a look at installing on a user provided host, which was actually very simple, as you noticed. Let's add a cluster here now. So we've already done deploy fully managed cluster. We've done this deploy cluster on user provided hosts. Let's do monitor existing cluster. Now we're going to monitor what I believe is a MySQL 8 instance, but let's make doubly sure. Yeah, it's 8026 as you can see, so it's a bit of an older version, but old is gold. Existing, so we've got 8 here, and of course and it's 7.9, so CentOS 7. So just telling you, it's deprecated. Enter the database password. So it's telling you again, yes, it's been successfully created. Let's make this nice little copy here. So yeah, sh authorized keys. Okay. And I'll click finish. So let's add the node. We'll call it Galera Lon, since that's basically what it is. And its SSH address was this one. Let's check access. Different screens, because this one's going to check SSH access and connection to the database to make sure the password was correct. Like magic, it works. So let's hit the deploy button. So I'm cognizant of the fact that we have approximately 7 more minutes. I'm confident that we'll be done. So of course, if I log on to MySQL here, show databases, use EMEA, you already know this, show status like WS rep cluster size. Surprise, surprise, we have actually got a 9-node cluster. We're done finishing. So you'll notice here, right, we've got 41 transactions, but on an existing node, these transactions should be humongous. So it's currently not getting monitoring data. Connection status is weak. It's looking good. But obviously there was a bit of an issue during this particular deploy, because it should be obviously having more information. But the good news is if I hit the delete button and I start it again, it should almost always just work. And I can answer some questions. Is cluster upgrade available via Galera Manager? The answer is at the moment no, but it's coming. How to upgrade existing Galera clusters to Galera Enterprise? This is actually a really good question. Because upgrades, as I said, are not available So that's that. So we can't do that in Galera Manager. How do we do it existing? Well, surprisingly, we actually wrote a pretty good blog post about this just very recently about how you can do upgrades. So, we hop onto the Galera cluster blog, and I believe we actually did this here, and this should really help you. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, should I just place the link here? I'm not really sure if that works, but it doesn't work. It's literally on a blog on how you can get this done. So the upgrade, this is from 5.7 to 8.0, and enterprise you'll get access to a repository that's different. Of course, today the demo gods decided that this would be a bit problematic. We're an SSH terminal into it. Well, it's definitely there, so it needs a password. Yeah, okay. So we've managed to connect to that. So it's possible that there's maybe a bit of a minor hiccup. And again, I can add another node. Let's go for another node like this one. And I should probably copy the SSH key for that one too. Oh, wait. We're close. All right, hit the deploy button there. So we support 3 different types of managed clusters. We of course love when you use the one that tells us, hey, we're going to use all our stuff. So deploy on AWS DigitalOcean. But more importantly, I showed you your user provided, which is 88% of you wanted to be able to run on your own hosts, which I just showed you can be done. We have a 2-node cluster that was created out of thin air, this node, and you just have to provide a Linux, and Galera Manager will do the rest, from monitoring to shutting down the node to restarting the node and so forth. So I'd say pretty good win all around. And the only minor hiccup here is we're seeing today on monitoring. And if you're facing any problems, really the easiest thing to do sometimes is just to tear the cluster down and start it again. And usually that solves all hiccups that you'd expect. So even if you run the demo exactly one day before, you'll find that sometimes things just go awry over the internet. So with that said, what comes next is, of course, we'd like to, of course, allow you to save and load logs and metrics. And we'd obviously want you to operate the cluster engine, and including, as you say, from community to enterprise. And yeah, okay. We hit the 15 minutes mark. So if you have any questions, of course, you can ask them via email, or you can contact Sakari or Larissa or anyone really, sales at Galera Cluster, and you should be good. So if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask them.